There we go. All right. So I've gone ahead and started the recording. And it's our intention to be able to share this video, to put it on YouTube, to share it out so that people who registered but weren't able to make it today can still have attended in some fashion. But here's what I want to offer. If after we finish the call today and you have some sort of moment of angst, like, I'm kind of feeling like I don't want the world to know that I said this about my wife or my dad or my mom, just let me know and we'll clip it out. I'll go ahead and put my email into the chat so that you have that. And we want to always make sure that people feel comfortable talking candidly, but we also want to make sure that people don't feel like they've compromised themselves or their loved one in any way. So I'm just going to go ahead and put me into the chat at zinniatv.com. Oh, I put it in the waiting room instead of to everyone in the meeting. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. All right. And we will go ahead and get started. So yeah, the topic for today is I didn't steal your purse, adopting their reality. And that's actually a terrible example. The way I phrased that is completely backwards because me saying, I didn't steal your purse is not me adopting their reality. That's me bucking up against their reality. If, for instance, I show up to visit my mom and my mom, after a little bit, says, I've looked everywhere. I can't, you stole my purse. Where's my purse? For a lot of people, the reaction would be first one of offense, like we take it personally. Oh my gosh, how could you how could you ever think that I would do such a thing? I didn't steal your purse. Or it might be one of anger, like, all right, how many times are we going to go through this? We set up a standard operating procedure, mom, and we have a hook by the door. And you know that every time you come in, you're supposed to hang up your purse. The purse is not there because you didn't put it there. You're always right. And then I start getting into an argument, which doesn't work out very well. So the goal of today's conversation is to talk about how we adopt their reality so that we don't do things like start an argument. So, first, let's talk about what's happening here. When a person is living with dementia, there are bits and pieces that are missing in the stories that they tell themselves. So, I walk into the kitchen. I think about the fact that, oh, we're going to be going to the store later. I better make sure that I have some money in my purse. My purse, where's my purse? And so there are holes in my memory. And so I have to tell myself a story about where my purse is. Well, if I had put my purse, I have a memory of putting my purse, hanging it on the back of the chair, because that's what I always do. I always hang my purse on the back of a chair, but now it's not there. So I need to come up with a story. So I think that most of us, at least me, the first story I would come up with is, I've done it again. I've misplaced my purse. And so what do we do with our healthy brains to fill in the blanks? Does anybody know? Like what would you do, Dawn or Linda, Sabina, if you realize that, oh man, my purse isn't there?
Look for it.
You'd look for it. Would you look randomly or would you have some kind of strategy?
Probably frantic pacing.
Backtrack.
Backtracking, yes.
Exactly. I would retrace my steps. Okay, hang on a second. I came into the house. I had my purse. I know I had my purse and I had my groceries. Oh, hang on. Then I took okay. And so I start backtracking and then I'm able to figure it out and I'm able to build the story. For a person who's living with dementia, they very likely lack that ability to come up with a strategy to figure out the answer. But there has to be a story. And so the story might be something that they sort of confabulate, right? They kind of make something up because that's what fits in the moment. What we know is that if that story is wrong, like you stole my purse, and we can come up with lots of other examples, the problem is that logic is likely not going to work because they have lost the ability to process a logical, let's call it an argument or a logical story. And so anger isn't going to work, and an argument is not going to work because you are almost certainly not going to win. If anybody wins, right? You're not going to win an argument with a person who is living with dementia because their reality is what they have shared with you. You stole the purse in this example. And if I try to push back and argue, it might cause them to mistrust me. Why are you lying to me? Why are you trying to gaslight me? Because I know that this is what happened. I know that you stole my purse. So I'm going to now shift gears for a moment and ask this question. Do any of you have familiarity with Naomi File and validation theory? Linda is shaking her head. Anybody else? Maybe just raise your hand if it's something that you have heard of before, or your virtual hand.
What was the name again?
Naomi File, Feil, and she started something called the Validation Education Institute. And so I'm going to pause for just a second and sort of jump up and down because I'm really, really excited about something. Naomi File is one of my heroes. So we talked about like I have heroes in the dementia space. When I was teaching in long-term care and my students were people who work in long-term care, and I was teaching the dementia class that's mandated for anybody who works in long-term care in Washington State, I put in a piece about Naomi File because I thought anybody who's working in long-term care needs to understand validation theory. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about now. But my celebration is because through a bunch of connections, I wound up meeting Naomi File's daughter, who has carried on her mother's amazing work. And we're now doing a partnership with them where their education videos are going to be housed. They have them on YouTube, and they're also going to be housed on the Zinnia website so that they're really easy for caregivers to access, which makes me just so excited. So the basic idea of validation theory, and let me just go ahead and grab something here. I'm going to pop into the chat for those of you who have access to it. And this will also be on the email that I send out with the recording. This is, hang on, let me go back into the chat for a second. This is a link that I just dropped in to a TED Talk that is Naomi File talking about validation theory. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit right now. And basically, the basics of validation theory is that it is about me validating a person's reality rather than pushing back against it. So the idea is that I want to really be empathetic. And I would say that if there's one thing that caregivers need to really work on, it's their empathy. How can I be with your emotions rather than pushing back against them? And the way that we do that, of course, is by thinking, well, how would I feel in this situation? And trying to really feel with a person, which is very different from sympathy, which is saying, oh, that sounds terrible. Why don't we go get a cup of tea? This is saying, wow, I can see that this is really hard. Ooh, this would make me sad too. So with validation theory, I want to lean into the person's emotions, even if they don't align with what I know is reality or what is my reality of the situation. So in this case, if my daughter were to say, or my mom were to say, you stole my purse, I would say, wow, I'm going to lean into her reality, which is that I stole her purse. And I'm going to also try to mirror her emotional output, the way that she's saying it. If she says, you stole my purse, I'm going to try to mirror that. And I'm going to say, I stole your purse, Mom? Yes, you stole my purse. You stole my purse. Wow, that's really upsetting that I would steal your purse, Mom. And then I'm going to go a little bit more deeply into my mom's emotions around this situation, where I would say, Mom, what is it? First of all, what do you need from your purse right now? I need to get the money for the man who's going to be coming by to drop off the groceries. Ah, okay, okay. And I'm not going to try to distract her by saying, you know what, Mom, I know you love that purse. Tell you what, we're going to look for it later. Let's just go get a cup of tea. Instead, I'm going to stay with it and I'm going to ask her more questions about it. I want to get deeply curious about what it is that's upsetting her. And I might then get to a point where I say, Mom, where do you usually put your purse? Okay, all right. Where did you get that purse? I just want to stay on the topic. And so this would then eventually lead us to potentially looking together for the purse. I want to look for it with her. I don't want to just say, oh, Mom, you know what? I think I know where that purse is. And then I go and I find it because I know where she always leaves it. She always leaves it in the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom and I get her purse. Well, now I've gone and I found the purse. And how would I know where it was if I wasn't the one who stole it? So I want to make sure that I look for it with her, but I want her buy-in to look for it together. Once I have demonstrated that I believe her, I'm with her, I'm not pushing back against her, I'm on her side. I want to help her find this purse. Yeah, let's start looking for that. And so that sort of drifts it away from the idea that I'm the one who stole the purse. I'm no longer the bad guy, I'm the good guy because I want to help her find the purse and we're going to work together. And I want to really, really emphasize how important I know this is to her. And so this then plays into lots of different cases where a person might have a reality that doesn't align with my reality. And so in a care setting, Linda, for instance, when we think about people who are saying, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home, there was a great um, story that I read one time about a man who was delivering a lecture about I think it was probably Alan Power was delivering a lecture and somebody who works in long-term care brought up this case where they were working with a woman who was saying, I need my mother, I need my mother, I need my mother, I need my mother. Well, the reality, of course, is that she's 92 and her mother isn't here anymore. And so you can imagine that there are many ways that we might try to soothe her that don't adopt her reality, right? We might say, your mother's not coming, or the case that we always hear about, like your mother is dead, right? Like none of us would say something like that to a person and make them grieve all over again. Or we might do some sort of little lies, right, where we would say, oh, you know what, don't worry about that because your mother is going to be here, gosh, probably in about an hour. So tell you what, since we have some time to kill, why don't we go grab a cup of tea? But then that leaves the person who is looking for the pining for their mother to have this sort of conflict. Like what Naomi File says is that deep inside, that person actually knows that their mother is gone. And so getting back to this story that I was sharing with you about the guy who was saying, the person in long-term care who said that this resident was saying, I need my mother, I need my mother. What they did is they said, if your mother were here right now, what would she do for you? And the answer was, she would tell me that she loves me. Ah, okay. So if we try to get to the emotion behind the adoption of this reality, what she's really looking for is love and the kind of love that she might get from her mother. And so leaning into what that person's reality is helps us explore it with them and soothe those emotions. So I want to go home. I want to go home. I need to go home. Wow, you need to go home. I do. I need to go home. I totally understand that. You need to go home. Well, what is at home? What will you do when you go home? Well, I would sit in that green chair by the fireplace because that's where I have my book and it's where my cat is. Oh, you miss your cat. I miss my cat. So you can see where I'm going with this is that I just want to turn it into a conversation that honors who they are and allows them to talk. Because so often people don't have that ability. They are not believed. They aren't invited to tell their story. Anyway, so I highly recommend that you take a look at the Naomi File video that I shared, her TED Talk. And I'm going to share one other, which is one of my favorite videos. I'm going to pop this into the chat as well. And this is a video that is anybody here familiar with Brene Brown? I'm sure that some of you are familiar with Brene Brown. This is a video that I think is just brilliant. And it talks about the difference between empathy and sympathy. And so I think that that's something that we as caregivers need to be really clear about, how to be empathetic versus being sympathetic. And I think that it's a cartoon, but it's hugely instructional with her sort of lecturing in the background. So anyway, by validating people's experiences, we enhance their dignity, we promote a sense of well-being, we prevent fights, we prevent them from mistrusting us. And the key ways that we accept another person's reality is through very active listening. And we all know when we have told a story and then afterwards we have not felt that the person was really paying attention to us. So, what are the things that we do, if anybody would care to share, that you would describe as active listening? How do you really let somebody know that you're listening to them? Dawn?
Well, I think you can repeat back what you hear them saying. And sometimes, it's like, okay, what I hear you saying is this. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Exactly. If you repeat it back, well, then gosh, that means that you heard it. Right. And then also eye contact as much as is possible, leaning in. I have a rule, which is that once I start talking to a person, I have to take my hands off my keyboard. Because if I'm writing or I'm typing, it's pretty obvious that I'm not fully engaged. So when the person living with dementia comes into the room and they start talking to you, to be able to put down whatever it is that you're working on and pay attention to them. Rephrasing what the person has said, which is what Dawn just described, asking open questions, inviting them to share their feelings, and then matching their emotions, which is something that I talked about a little bit ago. So that is what I wanted to talk about today, about accepting their reality. Any thoughts, any feedback, anything that is new or different that I just talked about, or are they things that kind of validate the way that you feel like you operate?
This is Maddie.
Hi, Maddie.
I think that checking back, repeating what they said, gives the caregiver an opportunity to figure out where they might want to go with their next approach to their loved one. So I think that's really important that we give ourselves enough time. So repeating what they just said gives us time to respect and to figure out, okay, now where am I going to go with this conversation? And my husband had frontal temporal dementia. One of the things that he always was fearful of, and I know it was fear, is that the Russians were coming to take him away. And so I would get him in the car and we would not be home when the Russians came. That is the way I would deal with that kind of situation. Or the jet helicopters are landing in the front yard. My husband was filled with these delusions. And so as the jet helicopters are going to land in the front yard, Madeline, you need to hurry up and change your clothes. I would then, okay, let's go in and let's change. And we would just deal with his delusions in that fashion.
Wow, Maddie. Did your husband have a military background of some sort? Were these coming from a place that was rooted in his history?
No, not at all. Not zero. Absolutely
Wow.
not. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I love the fact that you did not call him ridiculous. There are no helicopters that are going to be landing in our yard. That instead you found a way to work with him and soothe him. So, yay, you. And my husband also had frontotemporal dementia. So kindred spirit here. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have something to share along those lines? Something that is a time when they've had to really adopt somebody's reality, or a time when they didn't and it did not go the way that they'd hoped, or maybe it did.
And back to your purse theme here, we had a problem where Debbie kept losing her purse. She never accused me of being the one that stole it. We would just talk, and she knew that she had just left it somewhere. But what we did was I took it as an opportunity to say, why don't we go buy you a new purse? And guess what? They all had to have straps so that she wore it over her shoulder and she couldn't leave it anywhere because it was fastened to her. I don't know what you call those types of purses, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But she thought it was great because she got new purses out of it.
I love that. Wow, what a great solution. What a way to turn it from something that is tragic into something that's a celebration, right? Wow, let's go get a new purse. I really appreciate the fact that you thought about what would allow her to not feel shame about the fact that she lost her purse, right? That you didn't push back. You just accepted the fact that, wow, what a bummer. Clearly, you need a new purse.
It
I
was
think that that's
obviously hard
lovely.
not to go nuts because of,
Yeah.
most importantly, credit cards and all of that.
Yeah.
So you swallow hard and do a double take and think, well, what am I going to do now? And I luckily came up with that solution. So
How many purses did you wind up buying over time? I'm
three,
just curious.
three.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have anything to share along those lines? Oh, Robin, I see that your hand is raised.
Hi there. So I am the poster child for what not to do um, for someone with dementia. And uh, I was out of state working this past week, and my mother went into the office, which I have on a lock that she's not supposed to know how to use, but it's not working correctly. She went
Mhm.
in, and it was not to her liking. And the caregivers tried to get her to not go in, but she just gets so focused. And so she went in after having breakfast and spent 8 hours. And she did this 2 days in a row to where they couldn't even get her to change her diaper. There was pee and poo all over the chair. I
Mhm.
mean, it was awful. And, my brother calls me, mom's crying. She this, that. And then the caregivers contact me, and I'm just begging my mom, please don't touch the office. Please don't, I have all the papers. Although there was like a lot of messy stuff, I'm reorganizing her office. I'm like, all the papers are exactly how I need them on the desk. She's like, I promise I won't touch them. I get home, of course, everything is gone. She touched everything. But when I got home, and so my saving grace, so my first attempt with my mom on the phone was me getting mad at her. And then I went to Chat GPT, explained the situation. And Chat GPT always tells me the same thing, and it's right. It says validate. So I call my mom right back and I apologize. I say, I am wrong. I shouldn't have gotten upset with you. Thank you so much for doing this. But she was still too upset, couldn't accept the apology. When I
Yeah.
So she kept telling the caregivers, though, that there was going to be a funeral because she was pretty confident I was going to kill her when I got home, jokingly. So I thought I was within my right to be upset with her when I got home. But again, this is me trying to rationalize with
Yeah.
a person who's not rational. So I get home from the trip and I decide I'm not speaking to her.
Mm.
Very immature decision, but I just needed her to know how upset I was that she has moved. I had taxes were due. I had all the tax papers, exactly lined up and whatnot, and everything's gone. So then we get into a huge fight again, and she calls my brother. You said she was going to be okay with this. She's such a bitch. She can stay tonight, but she has to move back to California tomorrow. I live in Illinois now.
Okay.
A pretty horrible, like horrific fight. So, and she locked me out of the room, and I'm her overnight caregiver who takes her to the bathroom each time. Anyway,
Mhm.
I did so. I'm like, why did I have to use the attitude of being upset with her? Like trying to like I just needed her to understand that I was upset too. And I guess I'm learning that your emotions just don't ever matter anymore. And so on her second bathroom trip, she let me in and we had a nice chat. I
Mhm.
helped her understand where I was coming from. And then I asked if I could continue living. I'm obviously not moving. I've moved to be with her, to be her caregiver, but she thinks she can kick me out. Anyway, I just and then I saw there's this commercial for a drug on TV now that says like, oh, you can't use this if you have dementia psychosis. And I hadn't heard that word before. And I'm like, oh, I think that's what these moments are, this like psychosis of you get so focused on something and so upset and nothing can take you out of the moment. Um,
Mhm.
and no one was going to be able to get her to stop doing it and to calm her. Like the caregivers and my brother were both like, we've never seen her this upset before, and it was horrible because I wasn't there to really fix it. Anyway, but yeah, I did everything wrong first, and fortunately we're okay now, but although I still haven't found the papers.
Right. Wow. Um, First of all, let me just open this up to the room. Does anybody have anything that they want to say or share with Robin?
I would like to say, been there, done that, Robin. You're not alone. This is
Thank you.
Sabina.
It does. Okay, thanks, Sabina. It does help to hear that. I
Uh,
kind of have been saying lately, I think the disease might kill me before it kills my mom. Do you guys feel like that?
if so, raise your hand if you've ever felt that way as a person, as a dementia caregiver. Yeah, 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 yeah. Robin, and Sabina just raised her hand as well. Um, we all feel that way, right? I mean, think about it. When I hear you tell your story, I'm looking around at my office and the poop and pee aside, just the fact that I have everything where I need it. And when somebody has helped you and you come home and they've shredded all of your papers because they figured out how to use the shredder, or because you have so many papers, I thought that this would help you, right? I mean, they're so wow. And for us to feel like, oh, you know what, we're all judging you harshly, Robin, because you messed up and none of us have ever done that. Well, gosh, that's not the case. I think what everybody here feels is empathy, because we've all been there. We've all had that feeling where I don't know if I can actually take this another day. Oh my gosh, losing our temper at the person that we're caring for again. Like who here has sometimes lost their temper with the person that they're caring for? We all do from time to time. And each time we think, okay, now I get it, and I'm going to be more skillful next time. And then we go through a few times when, gosh, we are so skillful. And then we lose it again because maybe we didn't get enough sleep, or maybe we just weren't like, maybe we're mad at ourselves. Like, oh, I should not have left those papers there. I should have known that there was a possibility. So then we get into this cycle of being mad at ourselves and being mad at them, and then being extra mad at ourselves because we got mad at them. So I give you permission to let go of any feelings of guilt about how you handled it. You are human. And my God, think about what your mom's life would be like if you weren't in it. What if she was handling this on her own? Right? You're there, and you're doing the best that you can to take care of her, and do not diminish that in any way.
Thank
What
you,
I
and
would like to think about is
thank
the
you.
future, right? So it seems like you have come up with the idea that if I put this lock system so that she can't get in. Are you in her house?
Yes, I live in her house now.
Okay, so you're in her house, and so therefore she probably feels that it's her house. There shouldn't
Exactly.
be a lock that's preventing her from getting someplace,
I tried to
right?
explain it's to keep the caregivers out of where all the financial documents are.
This makes me a little worried because then you could cause her to worry about whether or not she can trust the caregivers.
Yeah, interesting.
Just something to think about. I just wonder if within the space, because a locked door is an invitation. And especially if it's in her house, right? I can imagine she wants to get in there because why would you lock the door unless there is something that's very special in there?
Right.
And
Right. I
so, what
hadn't
I
thought of it
wonder
that way.
about is within that space, if there is a way. Now this requires work on your part, right? But if you had a file cabinet in there that has locks on it, and that every day you get into the habit of taking the stuff out and you put it like in an order and you stick it in those drawers, and you are therefore protecting it because she may not need to get into all of the drawers. And plus, if you have the key and she can't get into those cabinets, I don't know. I just wonder if there's a way to kind of rethink about how you protect your space in a way that doesn't violate her belief that it's her space.
Yeah, I'm in the office spending the day rearranging stuff, looking for these papers. And I do have some cabinets with locks, so that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. The other thing that I thought of is like, could there be a space that like a group workspace where you might be able to rent a desk somewhere? I don't know, but um, yeah, Steve, what are you thinking?
First off, to Robin, tell your brother he's a jerk. Um,
I do all the time.
well,
And we will be recording this in case you just want to play this for us.
Thank you.
what I wanted to ask though is you just kind of created a problem for me in that the locking door as an example.
Mhm.
What I heard you saying is that I'm stretching this, okay? I have to do everything in order to make life perfect for my loved one.
Mhm.
I know you try to do that, but I'm going to come to limits. I know that. And I know if it comes to my office like that, there's damn well going to be a lock on the door.
Mhm.
And it, I don't know. I'm just saying, there has to be limits sometimes. And I'm asking that as a question rather as a statement. I'm sorry. It's just as I was listening to that, Robin's got a problem. She's got a real problem and she needs a solution.
Yeah, she does.
Well,
So let's just put it out to the group. Oh, go ahead.
some people on Facebook told me that they put locks on the top of their doors where their parent wouldn't be able to reach it. But I just thought my mom would keep going insane until she found a way to get that lock undone. So, and again, because it's her house, I don't think you can. I think it is the psychosis where it is unstoppable. So you almost have to give in because they all thought she was going to give herself a heart attack.
Robin, I don't know. I think it is her house, but she isn't herself anymore. Her house no longer belongs to the same person. You have to
Mhm.
give yourself a break. You're living there taking care of her, and I don't see how you can't just succumb to the fact, well, it's her house, so she can say and do and get away with anything given her condition. I think you got to toughen up.
Mm.
So, Robin, there
Unsolicited
are,
advice. I'm sorry.
No,
you
I
know
like
what?
it.
It
I'm
is
thinking about it.
solicited.
So,
It's
well, and I'm
solicited.
curious how others have dealt with situations where their parents wanted something they had to take away.
Who here has taken a car away from a person? Right? I mean, these are really hard issues when somebody no longer has access. They can't use the stove anymore, right? Like there are people, we put locks on the stove so that mom can't turn it on. We put locks on cabinets that she's not allowed to get into because she has managed to break all of the glassware or whatever it is, and then it creates a safety issue, because if she's shaking and she pulls things down and they break, well, gosh, you come home and mom's home alone and there's a bunch of broken glass, right? So I think that to Steve's point, safety is really the top priority. And so the question is, how do you balance safety and a person's needs and your needs? I don't think that it's ever okay to just say, well, they're the person with dementia, and so everything that we do has to be in service of that person, because we need to protect ourselves as well. That's absolutely true. And I'm not a medical professional. I would suspect that it's not psychosis so much as just perseverance. She's determined. She needs to get into that space. Now, having a conversation, I don't know what the skill set is of the people who are supporting her when they tried to dissuade her from going into that space. And I'm curious, have you ever have tried to have the door locked when you're there? And what happens if she tries to get in when you're there?
Well, when she's mentioned that she's wanted to go to the office and I've been there, they'll come and get me. And they'll usually try to change the subject, and they'll usually stop her
Mm-hmm.
from going to the office because they all know I don't want her in the office. And so the caregivers have been supportive. It could not dissuade her this time. She's just, it's like a recent decline where she just focuses on things so intensely now, and we'll spend a day like, cutting the shreds off of a towel because she, and we
Sure.
think it's great because it gives her something to do and keeps her focused. But that one wasn't harming anyone. And Steve,
What's
thank
her
you for sharing your thoughts.
diagnosis?
It's
What is her diagnosis?
vascular dementia.
Okay, so here's another thought. Um, I was doing some volunteer work at a community where there was a door that led from the memory care area to the assisted living area. And always there were people hanging out by that door or tugging on that doorknob because, boy, they wanted in.
Mm.
And of course they do. I want to go into this place that I'm told I can't go. And so sometimes people are successful by disappearing the door. Now, I don't know if this would work with your mom, but sometimes things like hanging a drape, and I know Linda has something to offer here, hanging a drape, putting a picture on the door, putting a mirror on the door, some way making the door not look like a door. Linda, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that maybe there's going to be something going on in the office. Maybe the office needs to be repainted. And maybe you could
Mm-hmm.
throw like a blanket or like a cloth or something over the desk where the papers are. And you might go even so far as to maybe have like an empty paint can, a brush, or something visual like that, and maybe even a sign on the door, like maybe tape or something. And not that you're taping it up, but just say like caution or under construction or something. And the caregivers can say, hey, you can peek in there and see what's going on, but they're getting ready to repaint this. And we can't really spend a lot of time in there. And sometimes I think just that curiosity, like you mentioned before, we have in our
Mm-hmm.
area that's secured, signs up that says something like, like door broken or something like that. In other words, we put it on the door is locked, but you can still see it's a door. But, but a lot of times if people are seeing people going in and out, so we have to kind of go a different way, right? Because
That
they're going to want to gravitate to where the action is. And maybe if this is forbidden fruit, that even entices it more. That's all I'm saying.
Great ideas. I really like them. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dawn has something to add.
Well, I don't know. We didn't ever have to deal with this, but what if she had her own office space and just, like an area set up specifically for her? And let's just say you had some baskets or something in your own um, office that were things that she could sort. So if she walked in there, you could say, "Hey, mom, I need you to sort these." And then you take them to her office space and then say, would you sort these papers or coins or, whatever? And then she gets busy and she thinks that she's helping you. It's just a thought. I don't know.
No, thank
Yeah,
you. Thanks. It's time to think outside the box, right? And I know Steve has another thought there. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just applauding her. I'm sorry. Was a little
Okay.
applauding symbol. I thought that was great.
Okay. It was, yeah, yeah, yep, yep, yep. This is the thing, right? I can give you my opinion, but it's important to hear other people's opinions and hear what people have dealt with, what people have read. I love the fact that you use ChatGPT to figure out answers to things. I love the fact that you go onto Facebook, go into groups, and you explore. It's a lot of work. You've never done this job before.
yeah,
So,
dementia feels like the Wild West for everyone, right? Like I I feel like
mhm.
in 20, 30 years, like people will be like, thank God I didn't have to deal with dementia 20, 30 years ago. Because everyone's just so overwhelmed by everything and there just aren't enough solutions for support.
Right. And it's not something like chicken pox, right? There's a protocol that you follow, or the COVID, whatever it is, right? Well, you take these medicines and isolate yourself, and then you're going to be fine. It's something that is different for every person, and it's often different in some respects every day. And so, as caregivers, we are constantly, constantly tasked to be curious and try to figure out why. Why is this going on? Which is one of the questions that I don't feel like I quite get yet with your mom, unless, like, why does she want to get in there? Um, and it could just be because, well, there's a lock on the door. Like, if there wasn't a lock on the door, what does she do then? If she didn't have to fight to get in, like if she knew, if it wasn't forbidden, if the door was left open, would she go in there?
Probably not. She hadn't used the office in years. I've been doing her bills for over a year now, and you're right. It's probably because she couldn't, why she had to do it while I was out of town. Um, yeah, it was just all an unfortunate situation.
Yeah. Well, and you will have other times where you have things that you need to do. When you are in the house, is that door open or is it always kept closed?
It's always closed because it's always been a bit messy since I'm rearranging things. She's lived
Right.
in this house for almost 60 years. It's filled with 60 years of stuff that I'm trying to get rid of. And she's
Yep.
OCD where everything has to be perfect. And I'm not the neatest person. So she just wants everything to look a certain way. So once she saw how messy it was, yeah, she just had to.
She took it on herself to clean it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Linda.
May I ask, Robin, what was the office before it was the office, or has it always
This
been an office?
this was always her office, but um she has been she's about 3 years into her dementia diagnoses and I think the main caregiver before I moved here was handling all the bills. But all the caregivers said she wasn't using the office at all.
Mhm. Okay, just curious.
Robin, rent it from her. Tell her that you need office space and that you would like to rent it. It has to be private, and therefore you're willing to pay her
Oh,
some nominal amount, just
that's clever.
if she has an office of her own, she must understand business and be pretty, so get a contract, write up a
Okay.
contract.
I think I
These
might
are
try
all really
that.
interesting, just really interesting thoughts. And Linda, I love the questions that you were just asking because it really made me think about how would I feel if I was a fairly meticulous person and there is this space that even though I haven't used it for years, it is my office.
Yeah.
And now I look in there and it is a disaster zone. There's stuff all over the place. I need to clean it up because it is, in fact, my office. So I can see where the conflict can come from. And there are a bunch of there, it's layered, isn't it? There are so many different pieces here because there's that aspect of it. There's the locked door, there's the stuff all over the place. Um, I think that you have a few ideas of things to try, and I hope that you're able to find a peaceful solution that allows your mom to stop feeling so perseverant about going in um, and touching everything.
Yeah, multiple
Yeah,
great
Steve.
ideas. Thank you.
Robin, does she enter your bedroom?
No, fortunately, I've kept her out of there.
I think
Where are you going with that, Steve?
well, I think the secret is it's coming down to the fact that that was her office and she doesn't want to be locked out of it. I mean, if she doesn't go into Robin's bedroom, she understands privacy. Um, you got to get her to accept you being in the office the same way she accepts your bedroom being off limits.
Yeah, I also
Mm-hmm.
think she thinks she still uses the office. So she'll say, I
I
was
think
just
so
in there
too.
last week. And it was like, no, you
Yep.
weren't.
Yeah, yeah. Is there, I'm sure you've thought about this, whether there's room enough to move some of your stuff. Like, could you put a desk in your bedroom?
Yeah, there's changes
I
to be
know.
made.
Yeah, I know.
This
It's
is
not
all just a
ideal.
lot. It's a lot. And and sometimes she won't think about it for months. And so you're just like, I think we're in a current phase right now and
Hmm.
just trying to, but I love everyone's ideas. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being so candid about what's going on and giving us an opportunity to put on our thinking caps.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we still have a little bit of time if anybody has another topic that they'd like to broach. Is there anything? It could be anything. We have a powerhouse team of problem solvers here. So,
I actually have a question, but about medication. Is this the right forum?
sure, I will just couch everything by saying that I don't know about anybody else in the room. I'm not a doctor, so I can have opinions, but that's all they
Right.
are.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead. What's going on,
it was
Sabina?
so my doctor recommended adding memantine to my mom's medication. She's taking Aricept, and now she's added memantine. About 4 weeks ago, she started, and it has just made her like she's on speed. Like she's just not sleeping. She's more frenetic. She's having GI issues, which is the opposite of what the medication, because the medication says that it'll cause constipation, but it's the opposite. So I just wanted to know if anyone else was experiencing that kind of side effect. I've sent a note to the doctor, haven't heard back yet because it's only been a day, but it just alarmed me. And I'm not really sure that we're reaping a whole lot of benefits if she's not sleeping. And part of the reason I brought it up is because you had mentioned if you're not sleeping, she stayed here with me over the weekend and I didn't sleep, and I'm a
Hmm.
nightmare when I don't sleep. So we did
Yep,
not have
yep.
a good weekend. It was horrible. Um, anyway, so that's
Wow.
my
Well,
question on that.
it's a good question. I see that Robin has her hand raised. Do you have something to say there, Robin?
Yeah, so my mom was on the memantine and she was having really bad sundowners and was having she often wasn't feeling well and she was nauseous. We didn't see one benefit from that medicine and we took her off of it and we don't regret taking her off of it. Now, I've been on other forums where people have asked about it and so many people swear by it, but we're not using it and we feel good about it. We had a palliative care nurse come. Um,
Hmm.
and my mom was complaining a lot about not being able to sleep, but now she doesn't remember that. And she's
Hmm.
in, it was suggested that she goes on an anxiety medicine, which
Hmm.
clearly isn't helping, but it's supposed to also help you sleep called, it's something like mitrapoli, with some
Don't know
MR
that
and
one.
a T
Okay.
and a Z in it. But so maybe there's like a better medicine. Um, but all I know, memantine was not great for us.
And I will say that, first of all, thank you, Robin, for sharing that. Everyone's different. And so if you notice that when you start a medication, that the benefits, whatever benefits you were supposed to gain from that medication are outweighed by the problems that it has caused, it's a pretty good indication that maybe your mom's not a good fit for that medicine. I mean, I think you're reading it correctly, and it sounds like you've handled it just right, which is to talk to the doctor. Sometimes if you it depends on the medication, right? Some medications you can say, well, then we're just going to stop it. Some medications you need to titrate off of. And so I would just check, I would say that you're doing everything exactly right and that you will not be the first people who have had an issue with this medication, Robin being one, but there are plenty of other people who have found that that medication just either does nothing or makes certain aspects of the person's being much more difficult to for them as well as for their caregiver.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a whole lot of benefit in Aricept either. I mean, well, the problem with these medications is you don't really know if they're working. Like, you don't know if they would have progressed faster or not. Like, it's literally like a game of risk. Like, you have no idea. It's just that she's taking Aricept okay. Like, there aren't any
Right.
negative side effects. This new one is now affecting me. So
Yeah.
I'm, I'm not sure it's a good one for her. But the thing is if you're taking something for 4 weeks and you're getting the side effects, if there's a chance that she'll get through the side effects, I don't want to take her off just yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, if she's gone through the pain, I'd like maybe another week, see kind of what happens. If her symptoms mellow out, then we can continue. Otherwise, you I'll take her off, and like Robin, I won't regret it at all because I haven't seen anything positive yet. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
I totally get what you're saying. Yeah.
okay.
And Dawn, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, my mom's in year 13 of Alzheimer's, and she's at the kind of severe stage. But her doctor put her on memantine about, I don't know, 8 years ago, maybe. And I can't remember what side effects. She did have some, and then he broke it up, where she took 5 in the morning and 5 in the evening.
Mm-hmm,
So she,
mm-hmm,
she wasn't getting the full 10 milligrams at one time. And
mm-hmm.
she's still on it. And people ask me all the time, "Do you think it's helped?" And I'm like, I don't know. She's in year 13, so who knows what it would be like. I don't think at this stage they make a difference, but when you talk to them about taking them off, they're like, "Oh, it could be helping more than you think." And you're like, okay. So
I
for what it's
know.
worth,
Yeah,
for what it's
I
worth,
hear you.
they may try to do, titrate it and break it up between, 5 in the morning and 5 in the evening or something, and just see if that helps. I don't know, but that's just a thought.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dawn. Sabina, you've got this. You're right to be curious. You're right to be concerned. It sounds unlikely to me that, like, oh, it was just that the first 4 weeks were horrible and now everything, like, you're over the hump. Unlikely, but maybe your doctor will completely counter that and say, oh no, it's always the first 4 weeks that are tough, and then after that it's brilliant. So trust your gut and I'm glad that you're keeping track and are going to have the conversation, and that you have already reached out to your doctor about it. That's absolutely the right thing to do. And oftentimes, like, as people get closer to the end, we wind up taking them off of a lot of all of their drugs. And it's not uncommon that people at that point are like, I don't know why we didn't do this 6 years ago. Because she's the same today that she was yesterday, and today she doesn't have the medication. So, and then that question of, like, I don't know, but if there might be a chance that it actually is slowing down progression and that she would actually be like way more progressed now if we hadn't have done this medication, I get it. It keeps us all wondering, and I don't know that there's really an answer except handling it on a case by case basis.
Yeah, that was one of the things she said to me when she got hit by a car 5 years ago, which started this journey. But she said to me back then, if there's a chance of anything helping, always want to take that. So I'm kind of trying to stay with what she wants, except
Yeah,
this.
good. Yeah, I really admire you for honoring her wishes. Yeah. Well, my friends, that is our time for today. Thank you to everybody for being here and contributing and helping each other figure things out. I hope that we will see you again. We'll be doing this again in a month, and then on June 27th at 10 a.m. Pacific time is when we're going to be doing the workshop with Carrie Alperts. And you know what? I should have dropped that. Bill, do you have that link handy? I can get it in just a second.
I'll grab it. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, if you would just grab it and pop it into the chat in case anybody wants it. Robin, good luck. I hope to see you again and hear how things are going. Dawn, did you have something to say?
Well, the 27th is a Sunday, is that right?
I might have the date wrong as I'm saying it. Hang on
Okay,
a
okay.
second.
No, I think I think that's what the email said, but it
Oh no,
also
it's
said
Friday.
it
The
said
27th
12
is a Friday.
the 27th of July,
Oh no, of June. Did I say July?
June.
I meant June.
Okay,
It's
okay. All
next
right.
week. It's next week. It's next
Okay.
Friday.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
And thank you, because if I said July, that's not what I meant. So thank you
No,
for
it's
helping
probably
me
me.
correct it. Okay. And it looks like we have that in the chat if anybody wants to register for that. I think it'll be fun. Carrie is just delightful. And I'm really excited to kick off this series and expose you all to some amazing people who can help you figure all this stuff out. So thanks for being here today, everybody. Take good
Thank you,
care.
Allison.
Bye-bye.
Bye.